Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Adrian and I'm Interim Chief Executive of the Oxfordshire Community Foundation, having taken over from Jane Woodley, who finished at the end of June after 10 very productive years. As you probably know, this is our fortnightly webinar series that we host on behalf of Amanda Ponsonby, who is High Sheriff. And we aim to kind of bring a spotlight to different parts of the county and the work that's been going on in different parts of the county through some of the organisations we've funded and supported. An update on the fund, the sharp-eyed amongst you will notice that the total grants paid has not gone up since 2 weeks ago. And we will be putting up on our website quite soon an announcement, or it may already be there, about the fact that we've taken a very difficult decision to suspend the grants programme for the time being, and there's a number of reasons for this. The National Emergencies Trust funding, which has been flowing through to us and which we've been spending locally, is coming to an end in a few weeks' time, and there's no commitment from them to continue funding beyond that time period. We also know from talking to a range of charities and stakeholders locally that there are a lot of concerns about potential rises in needs around mental health, rises in needs associated with the likely economic downturn and joblessness and so forth. And a lot of charities are very concerned about the potential fall off in donations, partly through missing out on all of their summer fundraising activities, and partly because if money becomes tighter, people are going to find it harder to find the money to make the donations they might have made. So for all of these reasons, we do still have funds available, but we are choosing to hold them back, or trustees have chosen to hold them back, to make sure that we are able to respond to a second lockdown, for example, if that should occur. So that's why the grants paid haven't changed, and will not change for a little while to come. But if you are, make sure you're signed up to our mailing list, and we will notify you in the future as and when that changes. The areas covered by the grants broken down by parliamentary constituency. You can see we have covered the entire county. Feels slightly apologetic that Henley is the lowest area in terms of funding received, but I know we've funded some very good programs here, and you're going to hear from some of those in the near future. So just a little bit of background on Henley. I actually grew up a little bit in this part of the county. So I went to Chiltern Edge School for a couple of years. I went to Henley College. So I know that whilst it's a very wealthy area in some ways, there are also pockets of deprivation and other issues dotted around the area. It's home to about 100,000 people, just under. And got a much higher than average older population, as you probably would know if you're living in the area. A couple of stats to highlight that we've identified locally. Food vulnerability is reasonably high in the area, probably because of the rurality of the area and the lack of population centres. And more markedly, the distance from some vital services like job centres, secondary schools, GPs and post offices is significantly higher than the average for England, which means that if you're living in a rural area, you may be isolated, and that could have issues in terms of your mental health, in terms of your vulnerability, in terms of your ability to access services. On the brighter side, the average distance to a pub is less than average, but of course they're only just reopening, so they won't, although some of them have been at the heart of some of the community responses and support locally as a source of social connection, they won't have been available to people recently. So we are going to hear today from 3 organisations working in the Henley constituency area. Hilary Arthur from Riverside Counselling, Sue Pryor from NOMAD, and Chris Rogers from Lowland Rescue Oxfordshire. So without further ado, I will hand over to Amanda Ponsonby, who is going to interview our 3 wonderful organisations and find out more about what they have been doing. Amanda, you're muted, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is when it all gets technical, and can everyone hear me now? Well, I'd just like to do a 1 minute just congratulations to Adrian taking over the position as Interim Chief Executive. OCF plays such an important part in our county, and it was wonderful to have 10 years of Jane, but things change and move on, and she's left OCF in very, very good shape. And I think she used to call it the glue that stuck things all together. Well, it's very strong glue, and she's chosen, well, not chosen, but she's managed to bring in Adrian, and I send you all the good luck, Adrian, and I'm thoroughly enjoying working with you. So, and all the rest of the team, the Kates and the Simons and the Annettes and the Bees and the, oh gosh, I will have left people out, but you do a wonderful job. Right, now moving on to Henley. I can't remember the last time I came to Henley. It is sort of from where I live up in Salisbury. It's sort of right the other end of the county. We're on the Gloucestershire border, and you're on the, what, you have the Thames splitting you from Berkshire, is it, I imagine? But I have actually spoken to the town clerk this morning and suggested that I might come down and spend an hour and a half just walking around Henley with him or the mayor. So that is a possibility. Anyway, I'd love to move on to Hilary at Riverside Counselling, which sounds the most amazing charity organisation, but I would love to hear more. So please, Hilary, tell me all you can.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting us along today. And yes, I'll tell you a bit about Riverside. So we started in 1989 from the Friends Meeting House in Henley, just a group of women who decided that the community could do with some professional mental health support. And we've grown massively since then. So our aim is to support mental health by providing really high quality, effective, accessible and affordable counselling. And so we currently have 52 counsellors now across the county. We're based normally, when things are up and running, in Henley, Wallingford, Didcot and Berensfield. And we work from 16 different locations within those towns. So we really have the policy that embedding yourself into the community is really important, to be able to understand the community and to understand the needs of that community. And we're very keen to adapt to the needs. So we haven't got a sort of prescriptive offering. We just basically hear what the community is saying and try and adapt to their needs. So last year we offered over 4,500 counselling sessions to individuals. But we've also expanded what we do to offer group work. So we run a therapeutic group. We offer parent work, which we found really beneficial when we're working with young people, supporting the parents to understand what's going on for their adolescent. We run parenting courses. We run groups in Berensfield, particularly for young mums who are struggling to find their feet. And we've offered ADHD groups in Henley and bereavement support. So we're basically sort of meeting whatever need the community has. I mean, we feel strongly that counselling has a ripple effect. I think sometimes people feel that, you know, working on a one-to-one basis with an individual is sort of a long process that actually, you know, where does it get to community? But actually it's fundamental, we find, in making a community strong. And I think definitely we're seeing the effect on the whole community by being present as an organisation.
It sounds absolutely wonderful and really needed. So OCF gave you a grant at the beginning of COVID, and was that to help you adapt to online sessions, or?
It was in part, yes. So we were really fortunate, I think, as a service in seeing this coming slightly before lockdown actually happened. So in the weeks before we started putting the idea into the minds of the clients that we'd have to work online or by phone, so that when lockdown actually happened, 92% of our clients transferred to working online, and all our counsellors working from home. So we were able to carry on working with our existing clients. But I think the funding particularly has supported us being able to transition to taking new clients into the service, because we had to do online training for all the counsellors. They had to be proficient to meet our ethical body's requirements, because we belong to the British Association of Counselling and Psychotherapy. So we have to meet their requirements. So we all had to transition and learn and train. And also it's a different experience working online. So we had to make sure that clients would be safe and that the risk factor was low in working with them. So what it's enabled us to do is to be able to offer initial consultations, and we've done that for 59 clients so far. We've actually had 80 referrals, so that they were slow to begin with, but as lockdown is easing, our figures are just going up, rocketing, really. So it's enabled us to do that. And also some of the clients we were seeing at the time have got reduced income. So it's enabled us to be able to sort of offer them a lower fee. As an affordable service, our clients all do pay something. It might be as little as £2. Clients who can afford to pay, we charge a sort of higher rate, but it's based on income. So as incomes have dropped, we've dropped the fee that clients are paying. So it's enabled us to do that, really.
Yes. And your clients, have some embraced the one-to-one online experience, and do they feel sort of comfortable? I mean, they obviously do, because they're using our service, but do you think for some people it sort of, they prefer it like that, or I mean, going forward, will you end up doing all back one-to-one, or will you carry on some services online, do you think?
Well, I think you're right in there's a mixed response. Some clients find it difficult to find a space in their home that's private and confidential. You know, we end up seeing some clients from their car in the drive, because that's the only safe place that they feel that they can speak to someone. But other clients have really embraced it, and it's enabled us to sort of spread our wings a bit further, really, and to be able to, you know, see people who wouldn't be able to get into a building, who are, you know, isolated or disabled in some way that they can't attend a session face to face. So we really feel that we'd like to be able to carry on offering it as part of our service, not in its entirety, of course, but I think the experience is very different as a therapist and as a client. But I think it definitely has sustained and we've been able to do some really good work with clients. So yes, we'd like to continue doing that.
And how does the age span split with your clients? Do you have more young people or more elderly people, or is it pretty even throughout?
Well, we work with young people from the age of 12, and interestingly, the referrals from young people was very slow and almost dropped off completely at the start. But now again, as schools begin to open, and I think families are sort of, there's slight normality, they're socialising again, and they're struggling with social anxiety. I think the numbers have gone up again. So we have young people. I think our eldest client at the moment is 86. So the spread is pretty wide, really. I think, you know, midlife crisis is often, and that seems to extend from, you know, 30 up to 70 now. So, you know, we have a mixture of clients of all ages, and male and female.
And you talked about your volunteer, your counsellors. With other services, I mean, is it the children's mental health services through the NHS? They've all been suspended, have they, at the moment, or are they picking up again? Because I wondered whether, if people have been furloughed, have they been able to, on a voluntary basis, help you out in any way?
It's a difficult one. If you're working for the NHS and you're furloughed, you're not allowed to work. So,
okay, right. Even volunteer. No, but I mean,
not officially in the role
right.
that they were in, so no, but we do have really good relationships with CAMS, the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, and they have contacted us, and we've had contact with Talking Space, which is the NHS service for adults as well, thinking together how we could, you know, work more closely and manage referrals. We've had lots of contact with GPs, and we've kept them informed of what services we're offering. I mean, one of the new things that we're offering is phone drop-ins. So we did have a drop-in service based in Berensfield, but now we've decided to make that available to young people. So we've got a designated young people's phone line, and we've got an adult phone line, so that people can call in and have a 20-minute just sort of, you know, catch-up chat, and just a sort of touching base, and also to think with them about whether ongoing counselling would be helpful. So that's something new that we've started.
Wonderful. And how long, if someone, what's the average counselling? I mean, do some of your clients receive counselling for, you know, up to a year, or do they, you know, are some just sort of 12 weeks to get them back on track, or is it all?
It really varies.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, because our numbers are going up and we're trying to manage meeting the need of a community as well as an individual, if every client that we saw stayed on indefinitely, we wouldn't be able to meet the community needs. So we've actually sort of moved more towards time limited, but we definitely don't want to move down the NHS route of just 6 sessions. It just doesn't feel enough. So the minimum we offer is 12, but then we also offer up to a year. And in fact, many of our clients that we've had in the past have been with us for long periods of time, because they've got quite complex comorbidity, real issues that, you know, social, economic, family scenarios that are really complicated. So it's not something that you can sort of change patterns of a lifetime very quickly. So it takes time, and everything we do is clinically led. So we wouldn't ever cut short somebody's therapy if we felt clinically it was the right thing to continue. So that's our sort of philosophy. We try and bridge a gap between NHS provision, which is free and short, and private provision, which is out of the, you know, reaches of most individuals that we work with.
It's fantastic, absolutely. And one, I suppose, last question. Sort of going forward, I mean, if your numbers, it sounds as if your numbers are increasing, and in the next year, 18 months, if we've got, you know, a lot of hardships coming, they could carry on. And are you able to link, I mean, you've mentioned linking with other organisations, but some of the sort of good neighbourhood schemes or things, and you hear about sort of street champions who've been helping look after people. What capacity is there to sort of link in with them? You know, if someone is sort of improving but just needs that extra little bit of, you know, perhaps a telephone call once a week from somebody, just, you know, someone who's anxious and isolating, and
yes, I mean, we definitely do connect up. We've connected up with the Henley Good Neighbours organisation, but I agree. I think there's something being quite powerful about what's happened, and communities coming together and connecting up in that way. And I think there will be opportunities going forward to do more of that. But I mean, one of the things that we had from OCF was an amazing amount of funding to set up a new website, and also to enable us to have a digital system. So we're hoping that all of that will help us connect up more. I mean, certainly the website, one of the things that we've done is increase our social media. So we now have Instagram and Facebook, and people are coming to us because of that, but we're also able to put resources on our website so people can connect up with other provisions. And the drop-in is in part about signposting, so we're hoping that we'll be able to sort of, some people who maybe don't need counselling but could do with a good neighbour, you know, we're connecting up in that way. So we're hoping to be able to develop that more through our website and through this drop-in service.
I think your website's wonderful. I got on it and I thought, wow.
We're very pleased with it. We're very pleased that OCF made that possible for us.
That's fantastic. It's a really, I mean, it's we're renowned, our family, as being very untechy, but I've had to embrace Instagram as the High Sheriff this weekend, and I'm like a child with a new toy. I say, but I've got some followers, but who are these people?
Lovely.
Still don't understand it totally, but I shall start following you, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, well, I've really enjoyed the chat, Hilary, and as I say, perhaps if I get down to Henley, we might be able to meet sometime.
Thank you.
I mean, lovely.
Great. Thanks very much.
Okay. But now, Sue. I think, can you hear me, Sue? Well,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. Hi.
From the brief conversation I had before, it sounds that you've been involved with so many things. But, do please tell me about NOMAD.
Okay. Well, we're defined as a youth and community project. We've been in existence since 1996. In fact, we were just talking earlier this week. We celebrate 25 years next year. So we'll be looking at some celebrations for that. But essentially, we support children, young people, families, disadvantaged, vulnerable, and that could be through low income, but it could also be complex social issues which actually cross the classes. And our work, we've kind of separated it into 4 main categories. So we've got our schools programme, which consists of mentoring, mainly in secondary schools. So we're working into 3 local secondary schools, the Gillett School here in Henley, Chiltern Edge in Sonning Common, and Langtree in Woodcote. And we mentor young people who are referred by the schools. Those young people will be having issues with perhaps school attendance, behaviour issues, substance misuse, relationship issues, lack of progress, poor grades and what have you. So the guys go in and meet with the young people on a weekly basis. It's a 6 weekly rolling programme, and then we have a review every 6 weeks with the schools to see how they're doing. Some of those young people will finish after 6 weeks, some will continue. We also run group life skills programs, and we attend quite a lot of professional meetings at the schools. We find a lot of families, a lot of parents struggle with some of these meetings. It can be quite aggressive, quite a lot of conflict in some of these meetings. So we can often help bridge the gap. And then we've got what we call our after school and holiday programs. So a lot of the kids that we'll be mentoring in school, we can then feed into some of the after school activities. Because a lot of them, there's a lot of stuff going on in Henley that young people can access, but A, you've got to have considerable amount of money to do that, or B, your behaviour sometimes excludes you from those activities. So we've kind of set up a programme. So we've got a regular weekly football slot. We run a targeted youth club. We have different groups of kids coming into kind of peer group stuff. Guys play on the Xbox, and often when we're playing games, you talk to the young people and things come up. So there's a lot of ad hoc mentoring going on during those times as well. And then holiday times, we do a lot of activities. We'll take kids out on challenging activities. I think one of our favourites is to Go Ape. And when you've got young people who sometimes appear quite intimidating out on the streets. If you get them 30 foot up in the trees, it's quite leveling.
Yes.
So that's a useful program, and then we've also got a parenting support program. So a lot of the young people that we mentor, the schools will also refer parents to us for parenting support. So we do a lot of one-to-one and some group work as well, and often that leads to other things. So it might be that they need support with their benefits, or their health issues. They need signposting. A lot of what we're finding is that a lot of young people who are involved in substance misuse, you go home and you actually find some of the parents have got a problem or an issue in that area as well. So we do quite a lot of work with families. We've developed a program called Family Focus, where we bring young people and a parent together and do some workshops with them. So we might discuss things like handling anger in the home, relationship issues, communication issues, and again, those have proved quite successful. So, and the fourth aspect of our work is what we call our community work. So that includes work with our 16+ group of young people, often referred to as the NEETs. So these are the kids who have failed to transition from school into further education, training or employment, and basically are doing very little. We've got about, we have about 35 of those on our books at the moment that we're supporting. We've got, we do quite a few community activities. For instance, an annual beach trip. We hire a coach, take families, young people and families, children to the beach. These families, this is their one day out of the year. It's their holiday. Unfortunately, this year we're not going to be able to do it. Certainly not over the summer when it would normally happen, but we'll see later on in the year. We run community events on local parks, where there's often social housing sites near these parks, and basically just invite the community in for a free fun time, bouncy castle, barbecue, and it's a great way of engaging with the community actually. And part of our community work is also the food bank, which has definitely come into its own over this period and has actually kept us extremely busy.
I bet it has. So how many people actually work for NOMAD? I mean, are you, how many are volunteers and how many are staff?
We've got a staff of 4. One's full-time. We have, he manages the project, Tim, and then we've got three of us are part-time. We've got a lady who does 30 hours, we've got a guy who does 25 hours, and I'm currently doing 20 hours at the moment. So there's a team of 4. We work very well together. It's a good combination.
And so then for the events, do you bring in volunteers to help?
We do, yes. I mean, some of our work is very sensitive and it's really difficult to use volunteers, but obviously some of the community work, and certainly over this last couple of months, we've really engaged with quite a lot of volunteers. It's been really helpful, distributing food parcels, people bringing food in. It's been quite phenomenal, actually. I mean, Hilary alluded to the community spirit that has kind of grown over these months. It has been absolutely phenomenal here in Henley, I think.
I think I read that, yes, your delivery of foods has brought you actually face to face with people that you wouldn't have normally come across. And I mean, people can, be in need of a food parcel, but they can still want to give something. And I've noticed this in Chipping Norton with some of the things going on there, is that it's just been rather wonderful how people have been brought together and realised that it's actually fun to be in a group helping
Yes.
other people. And
Yes.
And I imagine, I mean, I think the whole nation has been a bit concerned with sort of the difficulty that schools have been having with, every school is different. Some have coped better than others at being able to deliver an education. But the answer at the end is that children actually left school on something like the 18th of March, and none of them are going to be properly back till September. And that is going to cause a lot of anxiety for some of them going back into the system.
Yeah.
But some will, I mean, majority will thrive to be back with their friends, but I think online teaching has been very hard for some families. Either they haven't had the computers, or, as you say, it's sort of slightly dysfunctional household, and they will have slipped so far behind, and your services are going to be you know.
I mean, it's interesting that, I mean, I think certainly a lot of the families that we support have really struggled with homeschooling. We've got very good relationships with the school. We've been in constant contact with the school over this period. And in fact, we've actually been able to facilitate 2 young people who've coming to our centre here and receiving one-to-one tuition in order for them to catch up with work that they haven't done at home. So we're fortunate to have a room big enough to socially distance, so they can come in one at a time. We can wipe the tables down and what have you, and then the next they go, and then the next one comes in. So they've, in fact, this has been happening over the last 2 weeks. Schools are very concerned, particularly about these 2 young people, and so they've been coming in on a regular basis, and actually they thrive on a one-to-one.
I think most children do, because I mean, some children just can't do maths, for instance, but it's not so much they can't do it, they're just afraid of asking a question to be shown up amongst their peers, aren't they? And so it's a sort of vicious circle, but actually get them one-to-one, and the penny suddenly drops. And
and I think life is just so chaotic at home, it's just not possible for them to learn. The environment is just not suitable for learning. So
and from some of the reaching out you've done, I mean, do you think there will be some children that really struggle about to go back in September, or?
Oh, I think they will. I mean, I think a lot of children have just seen it as an extended holiday period. You know, I mean, I think what we observed is the first 6 weeks of lockdown, by and large, people kept to it. But after 6 weeks, it was just, for a lot of young people particularly, it was just too much. And they've been, I mean, social distancing has gone out the window for many of them. They've just been gathering together. Parents haven't been able to hold them in. And we've definitely seen an increase of that. And in fact, one of the things we do go out and do detached work. So we can go out onto the parks and find them, or into the woods and find them.
So going forward, I mean, the food bank will sort of, I imagine, sort of go down a bit.
Yes.
The need for that, unless there's obviously a second lockdown at some stage. But
yeah, we are deliberately running it down now. You know, we're reducing. We were delivering once a week to people, food parcels. We then moved to every other week. And then we will be moving to once a month, and unless there's a specific need, because we were very keen that people didn't become over dependent on them. But it certainly allowed us to get out and actually to have conversations with people, and I think that was very helpful to a lot of people, just to be able to talk to somebody.
Absolutely. Well, if you need an outing, because I've got a couple of days when children from Chippy School are actually going to It's a group that someone from the church helps, but they're going to walk. We're about sort of 2.5 miles outside Chipping Norton. So this little group of young children, well, I mean, sort of, I think so around 11 to 14-year-olds, they're coming out to have a day on our farm.
All right.
Build a bonfire and have a sheepdog demonstration.
All right.
So if you had a small group and you wanted, and you couldn't get to the sea, but we've got plenty of space on the farm. So
Brilliant.
be in touch with me, and perhaps we can see if we can organise something.
I definitely will. Thank you very much. Can I just say thank you to OCF as well? I mean, it was very helpful to have their funding right at the beginning, and an amazing quick turnaround as well.
Yeah. I think they've been amazing at that.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I would love to talk for ages, but I'm conscious of the time, and it sort of, you know, the minutes go past, and I think I probably must turn to Chris at Lowland Rescue Oxfordshire.
Hi, Amanda.
Very smart shirt. We're almost matching, except I don't have the badge like you.
Thank you. It's a brand new shirt to with our new logo.
Very good. So tell me about Lowland Rescue.
So Lowland Rescue Oxfordshire searches for missing vulnerable people. So we're a team of volunteers on call 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day. And we're called out by Thames Valley Police and neighbouring Lowland Rescue teams. Last year we did over 100 searches, and 70 to 80% of our searches are for mental health reasons. The remainder of those are for dementia sufferers or children. So normally prior to COVID, the team would be called out to meet at a location near where we search. Here we would use a van as a incident command unit, where we'd have up to 4 search planners in that van using statistics and likely find locations. Within the van, we have a sort of printers and computers where we'd print search plans, and then teams of up to 4 people will go out and search their allocated search area.
Gosh, a real military operation. So when COVID struck, the problems were still going to come. So how did you adapt? And was it the grant from OCF that helped you adapt?
Yes, it was really the grant that's helped us hugely. COVID meant that a number of our actual team members were having to shield at home. So we've had to adapt how we carry out our searches. For example, at the moment, the search planners work remotely from home instead of in the van. The funds from OCF have enabled us to purchase more digital radios, so we don't have to share radios within our team to cut down on transmission. It's also enabled us to invest in the use of technology, purchasing some more laptops to enable remote planning, and those are being put to use by the team members that are shielding to keep them and the team safe. And we've also had to adapt our search practices, whereas we'd normally have a team of 4 and they all be huddled together. We are socially distancing within our searches. We've been able to use the OCF money to issue the team PPE and training on how to use that correctly. We've also used the grant to help with our running costs, which are normally 15 to 20,000 every year. A lot of the money that go towards our running costs are met by fundraising and marshalling events such as triathlons and rowing events. So without these, we haven't had any income since February. So the funding from OCF has allowed us to put 5,000 towards our annual running costs. So I'm very grateful to OCF for the funding.
Absolutely wonderful. And since lockdown began, have you noticed an increase in call-outs or?
Yes, we have. So we've already seen that COVID is placing additional pressures on family life, more stress, loneliness, as well as perhaps domestic abuse. So we've had a number of searches already linked to these issues and mental health.
Gosh. And you work closely with the Thames Valley Police.
Yes, we work really closely with Thames Valley Police and their search specialists within the police force. All our members are police vetted, and we also work closely with the Oxfordshire Fire and Rescue Service, and also the emergency planning department at the councils.
And I think I read that obviously if you find a missing person, it's quite an emotional thing for the person and the family and whatever, and you obviously develop quite sort of strong links with that person in a way, and how long does that sort of relationship carry on? Or you know, I know that it's very strange if one's ever been in any sort of disaster, you know, you forge that sort of instant connection with the person who's been there with you, even if you probably didn't know them before.
Yeah. So our relationship does tend to involve more with the sort of family rather than the actual missing person. Obviously, it's a very distressed time for the family to have someone, a family member missing. It often does. Our relationship often doesn't last too long after we've made the find of a missing person. But in some cases, we have had families support us by fundraising events afterwards and things like that, and then the relationship does last longer.
And where do all your are they volunteers who help you, but you're all trained, so where do you do your training, and how long does it take to train to be?
So we're all volunteers. We've got about 40 operational, and we've got another 10 or so in training. Training can take normally around 6 months, but that's another thing COVID is having an impact on. Normally we're training out anywhere within Oxfordshire in the woods or fields and things. We do classroom sessions at Kidlington Police Station. But we are doing training, but online and in sort of small groups of 6. So COVID's having a sort of I should imagine that 6 months to train will become a lot longer.
Definitely. Where do your volunteers come from? They hear about you, or they come to one of your social events and offer to sign up, or?
Yeah, we've held sort of publicity in the past when we've been short of members and recruited that way. Otherwise, it's just word of mouth. Perhaps people out seeing us when we're on an active search, and then we get inquiries. But we're taking people from all over Oxfordshire. And also with different skills. So we've got a dog team, a foot team, a water team, and a drone team. So once you qualify for searching on foot, you can then sort of change and develop other skills.
God, how amazing. Well, I should definitely say to you the same as I said to NOMAD, if you want a farm to come and do it, a bit of training on, you must come up and see us.
Definitely, I'm likely to take you up on that offer.
Well, that would be fantastic. We've got a few woods and things, and actually, do you, I'm just thinking of Sue was mentioning the NEETs, sort of. Sometimes someone who's sort of lost their way, a young person who's lost their way, sometimes just needs to be sort of taken in hand and sort of said, well, you know, you can come and learn to do this sort of thing. What's the youngest of your volunteers? How old is the youngest?
I think they have to be over 18.
Yeah.
But after that, I mean, it's usually a requirement that they have to drive as well.
Yeah.
But, after that, we offer the necessary training for them to become operational. Well, it sounds absolutely amazing. I would love to quiz you about some of the amazing rescues you've done. But,
I've got a few questions in the chat box, which I could pick up on, Amanda. I mean, one which I think was mostly for Sue, but other people may have a view, but what are the particular issue or issues that young people in Henley face, in your experience, Sue?
I think rural isolation is a big issue. You know, transport links aren't great. In fact, we were actually saying just the other day that, you know, young people wanting to find work, there's not a lot on offer in Henley, and if they can't drive, you know, where can they go? So I think rural isolation is a big issue here. You know, and I think a lot of these young people, they've grown up in Henley, and surprisingly enough, going outside of Henley is huge. You know, it's very parochial here, and I mean, I've actually got a young person that we've been supporting, who's actually going to start university. She's been offered a place in university. Now, this is a young person that all but dropped out of school in year 10 because of her drug and alcohol use, but along with the school, and we've been supporting her, and she will break a cycle in her family. Now, I took her down to visit a university just before Christmas, and we're driving down to Portsmouth. She hadn't got a clue where Portsmouth was. You know, and she's not stupid. She's a very bright girl, but it just shows you that they are stuck in a little place like Henley. This kind of another world out there, and I think this is one of the challenges for young people here.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's definitely, because universities also can be very lonely places, actually, when you first start them. So
that could be someone, as you say, someone's life turned around and their family story changed in a generation.
It will break a cycle in that family, there's no doubt about it. You know, it doesn't happen very often, but we're quite excited about this.
Thank you. And there's a question also for Hilary about online sessions and whether you think you'll carry them on post-lockdown.
I think, as I was saying to Amanda, some clients really do get a lot of benefit from them, and they can't access our services because, like Sue says, you know, lots of rural communities around here, and they can't get to where we work, even though we work in a variety of locations. So yes, I definitely hope that we will be able to continue. It does mean that we'll have to undergo further training, or at least some of the counsellors will, but yes, we'd like to offer it ongoing.
So thank you. And then final question is for Chris. I think really picking up on the interesting mix of skills you must have to have in Lowland Rescue, because obviously there's a lot of logistical skills and practical skills, but then when you actually locate the person, you probably need a degree of counselling skills and capability to deal with the person who's probably in quite an emotional state. So I wonder what training and support your team get for that.
So we do a lot of training relating to safeguarding, because we're aware that some of the people we do come across when we do make a find may have issues. So safeguarding, we do a lot of training on. We also do a lot of mental health training in terms of when we actually find the missing person with perhaps mental health issues. But we've also got a support mechanism within the team, because we appreciate that some of the finds that we do make perhaps won't be that nice. So we do have support both in-house and through the police service.
Great, thank you. Amanda, do you want to final word?
Well, it's been wonderful talking to all three of you, and I think it just shows what people can do, and we live our lives, and there's so many organisations like yours that are making a real difference, and yes, please say thank you to all your teams. Because I know it's just one person I'm talking to, but behind you all there are others, and I think everything that you do is going to be needed, sort of going forward. But there must be some silver linings coming at this, and as you say, Hilary, actually, if you can provide an extra service of online, be fantastic. And Sue, perhaps there'll be more volunteers that come forward to want to help you. It's not all about the money always. I mean, the money does help to pay bills, but volunteers, as Chris says, are just vital. And the stronger these volunteer groups are, the better for the whole of society. So anyway, it's been really good, and I just hope I can get down to Henley soon.
I hope so too, Amanda. And I think I hope what we've seen is how a little bit of funding can help unleash the incredible power of community and support people who have a huge appetite and ability to do amazing work in the local area. So that's been really lovely to listen to. A quick plug, our next webinar in a fortnight is going to be focusing on education, which is obviously something we've been talking about a fair bit today, and we know there's disadvantages and gaps in there which we fear are widening under lockdown. So that will be an interesting one to come back to in a couple of weeks. As ever, the recording of this session will be made available on our YouTube channels, and we will be sharing clips and highlights through our various social media, so please do look out for those. But great to hear about everything happening in Henley, and thanks very much for everyone for your time, and hopefully see you all physically in person at some point in the not too distant future.